Welcome to Drudgery, Dreams, and In Between, the podcast for neurodivergent weirdos and queers who forget about struggling to adult. They're struggling to human.
At least that's what everyone's telling us.
You're right.
Per usual. But seriously, I'm Angela. People call me Mama Pistachio, bringing sense to the conversation. I help individuals and organizations cultivate skills, spaces, and confidence to advocate for themselves and each other.
And I'm Molly, giving a big fork you to cookie cutter solutions. I help busy as fuck neurodivergent entrepreneurs make shit happen by bringing stability to their businesses while helping them do what makes sense to their brain.
Enough with the chit chat. Let's get down to business. What's the frickin' point?
With our powers combined, we navigate life through the drudgery, dreams, and all that shit in between. Plus, we were already having these conversations anyway, so why not record them, right?
Alrighty then. Get ready to call bullshit on what everyone's saying you should be doing as we navigate the spectrums between what your heart wants and the shit keeping you from it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to another episode of Drudgery and Dreams. I feel like I'm in post-turkey fallout. But I'm kind of excited for today's conversation because we're going to be talking about a status I've had a majority of my life, which is touched out and peopled out. And so, oh my.
And how we don't have to be.
Yes, exactly. And I am excited for you to kind of dig into this touch continuum, which you hinted at prior to.
Love talking about the touch continuum.
Yes. So kind of, if you aren't familiar with the terms touched out or peopled out, I'm sure as a neurodivergent human, you've experienced these things. I know as a mom, being touched out as a parent, especially one who was once a milk cow for said child, touched out was a constant situation while breastfeeding. As far as peopled out is concerned, sometimes it's just not a people-y kind of day. Like, just no people, please. But okay, so you have.
I do, but I want to dig into this a little bit with you because so many of my clients, and this is something like over the years, before I was specifically working with neurodivergent queer people, I was open to working with anybody. And it's not just a neurodivergent thing, right? To get touched out and to get peopled out. This is something that I have found is very specific to the primary caretaker within a family. This person, regardless of who they are, because of our social construct, most of the time it is mom, right? But not always. Regardless of gender, whoever mom is, right? This person can get touched out quickly and then have shame, a lot of shame about that. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So I am not a touchy feely person to begin with. Like, I don't want you touching me. I don't want you getting in my bubble or my personal poop-a-loop, as we call it. Long story. But so ever since, and my partner is a super touchy feely person, and my kiddo is also a super touchy feely person. So like constantly have hands in my shirt or touching me all over my face. Like, just like, my little one is always like, Mom, I just need cheeks. And that's where we just have to rub cheeks together. No, I realize that this child needs cheeks because they need to regulate. But if I touch a cheek, I'm going to scream. So, but like, it was really hard for me when my little was super young because we breastfed, we rocked to sleep, like we did all the things to help sleep happen. Um, and usually within 3 hours of being up for the day, I was done. And I still had to get through the rest of the day and at least 7 more breastfeeding sessions. And it was just really, really hard. Um, Especially because I hated pumping, so I could not delegate the feedings because the pumping made it worse. Um, and so just for me, it was hard because I felt like I was a horrible parent because I didn't want to be near my child, a horrible partner because I wanted my partner as far away as possible. I just wanted to be alone, left to my own devices, doing my own things because I felt like tied to what everybody else wanted and nothing that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I've struggled through parenting in the first place because I am one of those people that does not love parenting or being a parent. I love my kid. I don't love the rest of it. So that's always been a very big struggle. And so even to this day, like Blaine, my little is still super touchy. And so like they need to lay all over me. And like yesterday's a good example of I'm touched out, peopled out because I lost my shit. Um, I mean, and I just screamed at the top of my lungs at one point. I was like, Mommy needs to go away. I realize you need me, but I can't help you because I am so peopled out that I cannot help you because I am losing my shit. And I had to walk away, even though I knew my kiddo needed me because I, it, it was not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the struggle.
And the struggle is real and it doesn't go away when they get older necessarily. Um, so I have a friend who gets touched out and their kids come to them and they hug them or whatever, and it feels very non consensual. Um, Resentment builds up, right? And this isn't just for this friend, this is for anybody. That's why we get touched out, is because there's this consent piece, and it's really difficult when they're younger. But as they get older, we can start having some conversations. Now, this friend also does this really beautiful thing where she will sit with her kid, her 16-year-old, and they will sit together. Her 16-year-old will sit up against her. She will wrap her arms around and they will sway for like a
Mm.
good 5 minutes or so in order to get that touch and to meet that need. And that's a really good way um, to, as they get older, to start building that connection and maintaining that relationship without getting completely touched out. So the sooner we can start practices like these, the better, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
and that's with, I mean, I like to do that sway thing with my husband. I love doing that sway thing. So it doesn't matter. It's not just for kids. We kind of get away from it as they get a little bit older. Like we rock them, we bounce them, we pat their butt, and we sway them, and then they get a little bit older, and we stop doing that. But that need doesn't go away. So how can we build things into our practice so that they're getting what they need and we're also
Right.
getting what we need, which is a break away from that touch sometimes. um, so the basis of that is to understand touch, right? And now that sounds silly. It's like, okay, well, you touch or you don't. No, that's not. That's not at all. Touch is a continuum. Like everything else we talk about, there's this spectrum, right?
Right.
So there's this beautiful continuum of touch. And so we have to understand and have boundaries for and decide what's within our consent and how to communicate that. So let's look at the 5 areas. With our partners, we are going to, or someone who we're in a romantic relationship with, whether they're our partner or it's just every once in a while or whatever. Um, there, we're going to experience the whole range, from healing touch all the way up to sexual touch, um, in a way that works for us,
You
right?
just saying touch makes me tick.
Well, shit, because that's going to happen a lot today.
Yeah.
um, okay, so let's look at one end. We've got healing. Okay, this is something hurts. All right, so for your kid, it's they banged their knee and you have to put a band-aid on it, whatever. Okay, for a partner, this might be a back rub, a neck rub, because the neck hurts. Healing touch can also be that emotional piece, right? Like you legitimately need some emotional healing, or maybe this is like that really, really, really tight hug for helping with regulation. Okay. So when the purpose of the touch is for healing, is for that specific thing, there's a specific need for it right now. Okay, cool. That is one, it doesn't like happen over and over and over and over and over again necessarily, throughout your day. But the next one kind of does, especially with littles. Affection.
Mm.
So, stage 2, affection. Okay, so now we have this touch that also it does kind of happen to be healing as well, because affection helps us with our wellness, right? When we feel close and connected to somebody else, it affects our wellness, which is healing. So, affectionate touch, right? This is I'm holding your hand, I'm putting my hand on your knee, maybe have an arm around you, sitting on your lap, hugs, right? These kinds of touches. Then we have sensual touch, which this is now starting to move in to and closer to sexual touch, but it doesn't have to involve sex at all. Okay. A lot of people think that that's it, like sensual touch. There we go. Sex. No, not at all. This could be rubbing up and down the arm. These are things, activating those senses, right? That's
Mm.
why it's called sensual. So it is, maybe rubbing up and down the arms. It could be a massage. Um, it could be kissing, right? But it doesn't have a goal in mind of we're going to have sex and, orgasm is going to happen, all of these things that a lot of people associate with sensual. In fact, it's funny, I just had a little discussion on LinkedIn with somebody about this, about sensual specifically, because I talked about this article. There was a really great article written by a massage therapist who also happens to be a sex educator. And they were talking about consent and how we can talk to and advocate for the right touch during a massage. And
Mhm.
this other massage therapist um, commented on my post that they didn't like that this person was talking about sensual massage and therapeutic massage within the same article. And we had very different feelings on that because I'm like, why does sensual have to have anything to do with sex? And if this is causing a problem with you because you say there's a stigma with massage, then let's talk about that. Because if massage therapists are not understanding
Right.
this conversation, like I can go and have a sensual massage with my massage therapist,
Right.
right? I can absolutely do that. It doesn't have to have anything to do with sex. It's about my senses and you know,
Feeling good.
stimulating those, feeling good, exactly. So this is, you can see how here we have professionals, this is their job. And I know that the person who I was talking to is not the only person who feels this way, but sensual doesn't have anything to do with sex. It can,
Right.
but it doesn't have to. And we're going to get to that here in just a minute. So the next, number 4 on the touch continuum, is now moving even closer to sexual, and that's erotic touch. Okay, so now we're like seriously getting into it. Maybe we're going to make out, we're going to do these things, but we're not actually going to engage in sex, and we don't want to, right? But we do want to do things that stimulate our genitals, even if we're not necessarily touching them or interacting with them.
I'm sorry. The fact that you did a dance and you made a little face made me laugh.
Okay. And then we have sexual touch, which is we're actually going to participate in the act of sex, whatever that means for us,
Hmm.
right? So for some people, what is erotic is sex. So we have to
Yeah.
define that for ourselves. There's no specific pinpoint definition like if you do this, it's sex. If you do this, it's erotic. That's going to be for you to decide and for you to discuss with your partner. So now, with that little caveat on there, you can see how this can become tricky.
I feel like most people just omit from sensual all the way to sexual. Like it just goes.
Yep,
And
yep.
like there's nothing in between. I mean, I feel like I'm one of those people. But but uh, um like I'm glad that it's something that you define for yourself. Like it's like boundaries. Um
Mhm.
but I mean it is technically a boundary. It's your personal touch thing. Um but um but I feel like people like me who like get overwhelmed by all of the touching are just like we are either not touching or we are
Mhm.
here. You know,
Right,
like
right.
so it's interesting. Like I was trying in my head to be like what would I put in that category? And I'm like I have nothing.
Well, okay, so this next piece might help you with that a little bit. So let's look at this whole touched out thing. And
Mhm.
let's okay, I'm going to take the kid part over to the side for a minute.
Yeah.
And we're going
Mhm.
to look specifically at relationships with our partners and this dynamic that tends to happen. So, you're in the kitchen, you're cooking dinner. Your partner comes up behind you. They wrap their arms around you. Not necessarily a good thing to do when you've got a knife in your hand. Okay, this happens all the time, right? The narrative here, the stereotype that happens with this, is not there for no reason. There
Right.
is a reason for this, right? There's a reason why we hear all of the time of, and I'm going to use he and she here, even though that's not always the dynamic, but often it is. Okay. We've got a man and a woman, and the man walks up to the woman and, caresses her, whatever, while they're in the kitchen. She gets angry,
This is me.
yells at him, then he goes away and he is sad and frustrated. And then the whole night is just this awkward, she's feeling guilty. He doesn't have any idea what went wrong. Um, and this does happen in other relationships, but it seems to not be as prevalent as within that heteronormative narrative. And that may be because communication is different. That may be because understanding is different. There's a lot of that. But we see this across all relationships. It happens. And the reason it happens is because the person who is being touched does not know the purpose of the touch. They then assume what that touch means, and then that's where everything goes awry.
Yes.
When you are touched out already, you've worked a long, hard day, and here you are being touched while you're working to serve this person, and now they're asking you to serve them more. They want something from you.
Ugh.
So they're coming up to give you a hug, to show affection, to have connection. That's all they want. They don't want anything else out of that. They are not meaning, hey, I want to have sex tonight. But that's not what that touch tells you. That touch says, I'm going to fix dinner, I'm going to do the dishes, I'm going to get the kids to bed, and then I'm going to be expected to perform.
Yeah. I
Right?
mean, this is like every day at dinner. This is
Right.
my daily life.
This is
dinner.
a very common occurrence for many people in relationships. How do we remedy this? Well, we understand the touch continuum. And then when we touch, we explicitly say the reason for that touch.
Yes. Yes. A lot of assumptions are made.
A lot of assumptions are made. And part of the
Yeah.
reason these assumptions are made is because people are like, well, that's boring. I don't want to have to, every time I give my partner a hug, I don't want to have to say, this is an affectionate touch. I don't expect anything in return.
Well, I feel like it's now that you've said this, I feel like no drama. Because like lately I've like, okay, stop. I need context before you continue your conversation. I have no clue what you're talking about. It's like the same concept of like, I'm going to come in the room and I'm going to be like, we're talking about this. Continue the conversation. It's the
Yes.
same thing. Like, hi, I just want to have a hug. Hug. I feel like that releases that guilt and I feel like things
It
to
sets
try.
the expectation.
Yes,
You
because if
know exactly what is expected of you in this situation.
right, and if you come with announcing no strings attached touches, then I'm not going to get irritated
Right.
like I do.
Right.
So, and yes, because like
And we
we
have
have
to ask ourselves if we are that partner, okay? And I do this often. I just go up and grab from behind and hug. I'm that one in my relationship who does that. if
the irony.
if in doing that my partner is feeling like that means I want to have sex, then I have created that situation in some way, shape, or form. So it's
Right.
my responsibility to look and say, do I do this more when I'm feeling frisky than I do other times? And if so, then let's remedy that and let's make it very explicit that I understand I'm giving you this. This is something that I want for me, and I have no expectations ever. And we can set that up so that we don't have to have that announcement every single time. But if it's been that way for years, it's going to take some time to get to that place where it's trusted that this is just for affection.
Right.
right? Um,
And I will caveat that with there's a conversation my partner and I have had, um, because I don't like air movement. I'm gonna preface this. I don't like air movement. I like my clothes to stay where they are. Please do not lift my clothes so that you can have skin touches because my skin's warm. Um, because then I have to feel the outside air. No go. Um, and so there are certain things like that might never be okay to that other person. Like
right,
just like pre-negotiated things might never be okay. Like it sets my sensory things all out.
right. It flips the off switch, and then you're off for the rest of the night, and
Sometimes
that's
the
not good in
week.
any way, shape, or form, right? Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So
Uh,
again, it comes back to communication.
right.
This is something that needs to be communicated, negotiated, recommunicated, renegotiated over and over and over again throughout the entire course of your relationship,
Yeah.
right? Um, a massage often turns from I'm just getting a massage, which I'm okay with, to uh-oh, it's becoming a little bit more than a massage. Hands are going into places. The touch is feeling a little different and can end up in sex. That can be negotiated beforehand. You know, we for those people who have responsive desire, they are going to not feel that they want to have sex at the beginning. But then as time goes on, they are starting to respond and then may feel at the end that they do.
Yes. As a person
So,
with responsive desire, I will also add if they say, "Hey, let's do this," don't say after my TikTok video because whatever they were responding to is gone.
is gone by then. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just to say.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so that needs
Sorry.
to be communicated throughout the process, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be communicated throughout the process. When your partner gives you a massage, let's say you have a massage table at home. And if you don't, I recommend having one. They are really good for lots of uses and they're not expensive. Um, you can use them to fold laundry on, and you can also use them to get a great massage, and you can also get into some fun positions. Just saying. Um, uh, uh, you can use them for all of the whole continuum of touch too. Um, so, and they come in cool colors that go in any room scheme as well. Mine is purple.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, so let's say at the beginning of touch of a massage, you have decided, oh, I'm going to get a sensual massage. We're going to put on some, burn these candles with this scent that we both really like and enjoy. And we're doing this not because I'm in pain, right? But we're doing this just to connect with each other. And we're going to participate in this with no expectations whatsoever. Cool. We've set that boundary. Now, as we start moving through, if you start feeling like you want to do more, you can't just go in and do more. It's important to communicate somehow. And again, this is going to be different for everybody, but it's important to communicate with your partner, whether it's asking questions of, is it okay if I touch you here? Or would you touch me here? Right? Asking questions and getting that consent should be part, and yes, I'm shoulding all over the place here. It should be part of the of the whole thing. That's what intimacy is. Intimacy is having that space and that freedom to communicate your wants and desires with each other. It's not just going in and doing something and then that off switch gets turned on. As soon as somebody touches you in a way that you don't like, you don't want to be touched, that can be the end of it.
Yes.
Right then and there. A wrinkle in the freaking sheet can be the end of it, which again, massage table is good for that because of how it works.
Pruny hands. Pruny hands does it for me.
Yeah,
Can't.
like exactly. And it takes one little thing, the off switches, and it's done. Especially when you only have a certain amount of time, because it's not like you can just start over and now restart that 45 minutes that it's going to take you to build the desire, right? To respond and be able to move forward with it.
Yes.
So that's the conversation that kind of needs to happen. And that's what is seriously lacking. Outside of the knowledge of there's this whole continuum of touch, and we get to decide how we want to be touched, and we need to communicate that. Um, you know, that whole thing is there. Do you have anything before I move on? Because I could just
No.
ramble.
I
Okay.
know. I was about to wrangle you. I was like, I need to wrangle her into talking about peopled out. We've talked a lot about touched out. We got to talk about peopled out.
Okay.
So,
Yes. Peopled out. That moves us over into the kid part, right? And the kid
I would
part matters
say
on the touch continuum too. It's part of that people out process is the touch continuum is not just for your partner. It's for every single person who you come in contact with, including your children. Obviously, we're not going to go the whole continuum with them.
that would be gross.
And most of the people in our lives, we're not going to go through that continuum with, but the continuum still exists. And when someone touches us, we still need to know the meaning of that touch. And we, in our brains, oftentimes have that piece in there that even though we know that this is not a sexual touch, it still triggers that response within us. So understanding that in ourselves and saying, I know that this is just an affectionate touch with this person, just that can help us deal with the people around us in those situations. And that's oftentimes a trauma response, right? When that is happening, when every single touch means, triggers us into that sexual space. And that is something that we need to discuss with our therapist. Guess what? You might have to explain to your therapist what the touch continuum is because they might not know,
True.
right? So have that conversation with them. It's okay. Do it. If that is something that if you are constantly triggered by touch and feeling not just from a sensory perspective of I don't want to be touched, but if there's that every time every time you get touched, if there's that and you recognize that there's been some trauma that has happened that hasn't been dealt with, deal with that. Deal with it so that you can participate in your relationships in the way that you would like to. And I know not everybody has access or the finances to do that. Um, so there are resources out there, and maybe we should um, put some suggestions in our call notes
We can link.
for that.
Yeah.
So, peopled out.
Peopled out. I find that peopled out, uh, as much as sometimes it's the kids touching still makes me peopled out, it is also the expectations that I have to fix all the things that makes me peopled out. And I feel like um, I've noticed this in a lot of more type A people. We have always been the person that people rely on to fix things. And so eventually we just meet our quota And
Mhm.
then we're just kind of peopled out. Like we can't solve another problem. That's when that decision fatigue kind of falls in as well. And we just need alone time to like
Mhm.
de escalate.
Okay, let me say this to you, and I want to know what your response is. Are you ready?
Probably not, but let's go.
Molly, you're
Yes.
so strong.
Oh, God. And they can't take a compliment and they feel like everybody's being sarcastic.
No. I mean, okay, yes, but now you're beating yourself up for something that is absolutely warranted. This person who takes care of everything and everybody all of the time, they are not allowed to not be strong. Like, I'm strong because I have to be. I have no freaking choice.
Yes.
Stop
I,
admiring me for something that I have not consented to. I don't want to be strong
yes.
in the way that you are admiring me for being strong. I want to be strong by asking for help, by crying, by showing weakness, quote unquote.
Yeah. I had somebody. So I try really hard to be pretty frank on a social media and display like real life Molly.
Hmm.
Evidently, I was not doing a good job of this. Because somebody was like, "You've got your shit together and you're so awesome." And I was like, "Do you read anything? Do you read anything I put out there? Did you think I was faking those things?" I feel like you aren't getting it. Um, and I like felt like, "Oh God, I need to be more of a basket case online to be more accurately depicting. Because if people think this is having their shit together, we have a problem." But I mean, it comes down to the same thing you were just saying is like people admiring like how you're handling things is is not okay.
Right. I mean, it's
Um,
just that when you constantly have people saying that to you, if that doesn't spark joy within you, but instead it sparks dread, every time you hear that, if you get a bodily response, if you get anxious, that band around your chest goes, your breath goes away, and not because you're feeling proud, take a look at it. Take a look at your relationships, and Molly, we need to sometime soon have an episode just on consent.
yes.
Um, because that's what all of this boils down to. It's we are accepting situations that we don't want to accept. Um, and these situations are ones where we can, in fact, ask for help and get support, but we're not because we are trying to live up to this expectation of Superman, Superwoman, super kid, super everything, right?
Or
And then it burns
even
us out.
and sometimes it's we are asking for help, but people are like, "You're doing so well, you're fine." And so then
Yeah.
when we finally do ask for help, if you are a person that's like me, then it's belittled and like you're just gonna have to keep figuring it out on your own because you obviously have that skill.
You're strong. You
So
got this.
you got this. You're doing great. It's
Yeah. I believe in you.
eh, right, and I feel like this happens. Uh, I'm gonna screw up how I'm saying this, but um, people who look like they don't need a lot of support,
Hmm.
or they look like they're a neurodivergent human who is a low supports human. Um, no, you're just not listening when we're asking.
Right.
I feel a lot of the times is we're asking
Or you're
and
expecting us to need help in the same way that you need help.
right,
And because you're capable of doing that, we should be capable of doing that too, but that's not always the case.
right. And I feel like I always joke about Maslow's hierarchy of need. Do
Hmm.
you know what I'm talking about? Well, my
Nobody can
higher
see my face here.
oh,
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
okay. I was like, I can't even tell if you're agreeing with me.
Um,
Anyway, so in psychology, you have this like hierarchy of needs, and it's like, breathing. You somehow acquired this hierarchy. Well, mine likes to make stupid shit at the top of the hierarchy. And so when I was in the military, oh God, my headphones just made everything loud. Um, so when I was in the military, the hierarchy of need was don't go to jail for being AWOL. Therefore, you must go to work. And somehow I figured out how to drive in DC and drive crazy amounts of distances and get shit done, all while internally screaming. But then I got out of the military and my hierarchy changed because now the threat of going to jail wasn't there. And so I then could not drive. Like,
uh-huh.
could not, I would have a panic attack getting in the car, could not drive. For a year, did not drive. Spouse had to drive me to all my therapy appointments or 40 minutes away, like crazy. Like I could not do it. And so even now, even in my darkest days where I want to be a lump on a couch and just somehow miraculously wake up 6 months from now, I still manage to care for my kid, not because I like am like intentionally like, oh, this child needs me, but because
Mhm.
I have some weird hierarchical system in my brain that's like, this is a requirement. And I somehow can get to do that one activity. And then after that, there's nothing. And I'm back to my lump status.
Right.
Um, and so I feel like there are some of those like that hierarchy works for some people and others it doesn't. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know that it works for anybody,
Oh,
honestly.
I guess it's not really working for me. It's just
Like
working against me.
yeah, I don't know that I honestly don't know that it works for anybody. And there's a reason for that, right? Um so this a lot of people think, oh my gosh, this is an episode in and of itself. A lot of people think that our needs are food, water, shelter, and that as long as those are met, we're good to go. But it's not that simple, right? We also need psychological safety. We need
Mhm.
connection with other people. We need purpose um, within our uh, community. We need to give back. There are different needs, and we all get all of those needs met one way or another. One way is a very energy draining way, and the other way is a very energy gaining way. So when we are peopling and we are doing it in a way that drains our energy, then we are outside of our zone of consent and we get burnt out and we need more than average time for us to come back from that, right? So if I'm peopling in a way that I'm not consenting to and it's draining my energy, like happens for a lot of people in the workplace, then the amount of time that I'm going to need to recover from that is going to be longer than if I am able to people in a way that is energy gaining because it's within my zone of consent. Easier said than done
Yeah.
because we don't always get to control our environment. But if I can go to the grocery store and I can wear headphones and I can use the self checkout and not have to talk to anybody, and I can turn the volume down on the self checkout so that it's not going beep, beep, beep every time, or it's not, announcing the price of every item, or it's not telling me something to do all of the time, right? Okay, now you know what happens when I go to the grocery store.
I didn't mean to laugh. I was just laughing at the fact that I can only imagine if it's announcing every price and you have 30 cans of soup or
It
something.
does at the commissary. That's what it does. And then
Oh my
we have
god.
we have one of the people who works the self checkout here who likes to come over and tell me that I can't turn the volume down. Uh huh. Um, we'll have that conversation another day. But yes, I can, and yes, I will. Or these groceries will not be bought today.
Yeah. Right?
um, but that makes a difference in what I'm able to do when I'm done with the grocery store, right? Um, Going to work is the same thing. If I am able to people in a way that works for me, then I am more able to participate in my relationships when I get home. Those relationships thrive. And when my relationships at home are thriving, that affects when I go back out to work. If I work outside of the home, right? Actually, even working in the home. So it is important all the way around um, that we're able to address those needs so that all of our relationships can be successful. Because oftentimes, what happens for a lot of neurodivergent folks is we will be really successful in one area and have really high needs for support in another area. Oftentimes that looks like I can go to work and I can look like I've got my shit together and everybody thinks, "Oh my gosh, this person is amazing and they're awesome." And then I go home and I can't clean my house and I can't do my self-care and I can't take my shower and I can't have a conversation and I can't maintain an intimate relationship and I'm a bad parent and I'm a bad wife and I'm a bad da 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 da.
That's me.
Right? So when we're talking about being peopled out, oftentimes that's what that looks like when we're because today we're really kind of talking about relationships, right? Like
Yeah.
intimate relationships um, with a partner, somebody in our home, um, and that can suffer. Or I can be really successful at my relationship at home and really struggle to do the work. It's either or, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay. Well,
The end.
the end. I think we've set up a couple episodes here that are in our future. Um, but I think this is the end of this one. So,
Okay. Thanks for listening to Drudgery Dreams and In Between, a weekly live podcast coming to you every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific. Subscribe now wherever podcasts are found. If you'd like to support the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and review and share with your friends. To catch all the latest from us, visit us at drudgeryanddreams.com and follow on your favorite social media platforms at Drudgery and Dreams. Thanks again. See you next time.
see you guys.